should be good.
Yeah, we're clearly live and on the air right now.
Yeah, I believe we're live. Should
Oh,
be
we
live.
I didn't know that.
We should
Hi,
be.
guys. So
Welcome.
funny.
Before I get yelled at by Josh, welcome to the Free Assange Vigil, everybody.
Is this week 71?
Yes, this is week 71.
All right, so how about we go through some numbers? Or should we introduce ourselves first? We're so out of sorts tonight, y'all.
Really are.
Yeah. This is our best scripted episode yet.
Right,
The writers deserve an Emmy or whatever the award is for YouTube.
The episode where the tech
Yeah,
guy
I'm pretty
can't
sure
connect,
that's
so the other guy just slaps the keyboard until something starts working.
Yeah, the one where Sleepy Josh didn't have internet. Yeah, that's the one. At least he's not watching, so he can't yell at us for being so awful.
Oh, I bet oh, that's true. You can't even get on the internet.
Yeah, he can't even get on like Twitter or anything. So
yeah.
I mean, he'll see it later though. Maybe he won't bother. Who knows? Anyways, so I'm Misty Winston, joined tonight by Steve Poikinen and Andrew Smith. And in case you hadn't noticed, we're a little out of sorts and late because Sleepy Josh didn't have internet. So Andrew had to try to figure some things out.
And we got it.
We did. Andrew saved the day. So yay, Andrew. Round of applause. Okay, so numbers for today. We have 3,625 days of illegal and arbitrary detention for Julian Assange. We have 579 days since the WikiLeaks founder was trafficked from the Ecuadorian embassy after being sold to the United Kingdom for a $4.2 billion loan from the International Monetary Fund to Ecuador. 64 days until Vanessa Breitzer's decision is given on January 4th, 2021. We have 1,249 days of federal incarceration for Reality Winner, and our little ray of sunshine, 236 days of freedom for Chelsea. And as always, make sure you visit her Twitch stream Thursday through Sundays from 7 to 11 Eastern. And she just hangs out, plays games, so hop on there and show some love to her. But how are you guys doing tonight?
Frazzled.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, just all around frazzled. I got my firm toned ass kicked at work today, and yeah.
My firm toned ass.
I put on a decent shirt and I have cufflinks. I don't know.
You do look very handsome tonight. You're very fancy.
You're much fancier than I am. I used my get fancy time to get the stream going. But we do not have a guest joining us tonight for everybody watching. There was some scheduling confusion and things like that, but they will be joining us at a later time, so I'm excited for that. We will be going through a couple different witness statements today. If I can finagle it, I might be able to get a video to play for us. I'll have to use the other computer that's running the stream to do it. So I could probably make that happen. No promises, but we should be able to get through it together. But yeah, so overall, how are you today, Missy? How's everything been?
Today's been okay, I guess. There's just a lot of bullshit going on as usual, and it seems to be ramping up even more. But what can you do other than, sit back, grab your popcorn, and try to laugh?
Right.
Yeah. That's about it. That's all you can do at this point.
Cool. So I'm going to put the links because I'd like to start out with the really short John Young statement on the Cryptome guy. I'm going to put the link to his actual witness statement in the chat for everybody right now. Just for you guys to check out, to read along if you like. It's relatively short. We have a couple of paragraphs fleshed out here for us. I'm going to throw it up on the screen share and hope it looks good.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that aspect of it. Things could get interesting.
So John Young is the Cryptome guy. I think you might have said Sloboda.
Oh, did I? I'm really bad with names.
Well, they're both named John. So
okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to preface it a little bit? Give a little more background to it while I try to get my screen share going?
If you guys remember, Luke fucking Harding and some other absolute douche nozzle wrote a book about Julian Assange where they used it to more or less crucify the man in print. And in this book, they dropped the password for the unredacted Cablegate files. And they titled a chapter with that password. And a couple of people figured it out. And Cryptome, this website that still exists to this day, in fact, all of those documents still exist on that website today. Cryptome published them all unredacted, and nary a whisker of harm has come to them.
Which rightly so that it hasn't.
Right.
But
well,
what was-
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, at that token, why the hell is Julian Assange in Belmarsh prison?
Well, that was, I don't remember which witness it was actually talked about with. It may have been Getz, the guy we had last week, the statement we did last week. But they literally asked, the judge asked about why Julian would get placed in solitary confinement. And I think that the answer really kind of pulls back to why Cryptome wasn't prosecuted, but WikiLeaks was. And it's the impact, it's the breadth of the publication to the general public. And that's literally the excuse that the prosecution used when they were pressed or asking questions about this.
Crap. And do you need me to pull any of this up for screen share, or do you
Nope, I got it. I can screen share it if you want me to pull it up now.
Okay. Yeah, we can run through.
Yeah, I got Young up.
Okay. Be a moment for Misty. If you have that up, go ahead and
I
take
do.
it.
Okay, so here we go. My name is John Young, resident of New York, a citizen of the United States of America, and founder of the website cryptome.org in 1996, and continuously since that time have been the website owner and administrator to the present. I published on cryptome.org unredacted diplomatic cables on September 1st, 2011, under the URL blah, 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 and that publication remains available at the present. Since my publication on cryptome.org of the unredacted diplomatic cables, no U.S. law enforcement authority has notified me that this publication of the cables is illegal, consists or contributes to a crime in any way, nor have they asked for them to be removed. So, he's just kind of giving the example that he has not been charged with anything or told that it was a problem publishing those. I don't know what the hell I just did in my computer. Steve, did you get yours brought up?
Yeah.
That was it for Young.
Okay, I was trying to figure out why I thought my computer was jacked up.
Nope, there's just that one brief statement from Young, because that's mostly what they had talked about during the majority of what his statement was about. But you also have to remember the prosecution didn't even know the timeline of events, where they didn't know who published first. They just said that it was WikiLeaks at the front of the line, when it was actually had to have been admitted in court that it was David Lee that actually published the documents first by releasing the password, and Cryptome had them online and available for anyone who knew what to look for.
Yeah, I think that the prosecution literally just took like mainstream media talking points and read them out loud in court, is what it felt like.
That's what the Kronberg document is. The Kronberg document is a work of fiction that relies heavily on what the CIA had been feeding to media outlets and what media outlets had just sort of wildly guessed at. Like the Kronberg document is basically that clip of The Hill in 2018 that's really, really, really hard to find now, where Cristobal and Sagar, I can't remember his last name, where those two just get fucking giddy over the prospect of Julian being tortured and repeat all kinds of garbage. And that's what the Kronberg document is. It's fantasy presented as solid legal evidence and the justification to criminalize investigative journalism and destroy the life of a man who received documents and published them.
That were in the public interest. Yeah.
Yep.
It's pretty intense.
And we're gonna do. We have our next two vigils planned out. It's actually going to be the same witness statement. But we're going to do the Kronberg document. It's just 360 some pages, like 367 or 57, something like that. So we have to make sure that we do that justice in and of itself. So we're going to probably after this weekend and next Tuesday dig into that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, we just have to find time to go through it and really pull out the best pieces of it, because obviously we can't go through it all. It would take forever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just want to make sure that when we go through it, we are pulling out the best and most important pieces to mock and ridicule.
Absolutely. And that document relies incredibly heavily on the book. The Harding, who co-wrote that? But was it David Lee that co-wrote it? I'd want to say it wasn't, but I can't remember the other author's name.
I can't either.
Maybe the chat will know. I don't know. At any rate, the Kronberg document refers to that book over and over and over and over again, and it is completely fucking made up garbage. And a lot of it was out of pure spite, because they had asked Julian if he would be, if he would be into them writing his writing his biography, and he turned them down. And so they went, oh, okay, well, we'll get petty, and we'll get libelous, and we'll get slanderous, and we'll do what we can do to ruin your career. After they benefited heavily from not only the existence of WikiLeaks, but the existence of SecureDrop and all of this technology that Julian had introduced them to while they were working in the basement of the Guardian, trying to put all of this together. Basically just used the man up for whatever they could and threw him to the actual wolves.
Yeah. And I looked it up. You were right. It is David Lee.
Okay.
And it's because most mainstream journalists have this level of separation, where they see themselves as these like almost aristocrats that get to bring whatever they want out into the public light and don't view themselves as the same as the whistleblowers. And they treated Julian in that category as lesser because he didn't have some big marble buildings all around the world. He was a guy working in remote locations, country to country, publishing documents that governments didn't like. So they had this whole different perspective, essentially, and how they viewed and even represented Julian, which was fucking heinous, because they, like Steve said, have just basically sold him out to where they've even been found. Like the court said, no, we should have went after David Lee first. And the Guardian still only published, 4 articles total about Julian's trial? Yeah.
Yeah, four articles over the entire 4 weeks. But then on one day, they did 6 articles on Johnny Depp in one day.
So what you're saying is it would have been a lot better had Julian been the victim of spousal abuse.
Maybe.
Then they would have covered his hearing a little bit more. Like,
probably
let's
not.
say Greg Dobbin just, ran straight for the goldfish bowl and like somehow got in and started wailing on him. Like that would have been newsworthy. I think even the BBC would have been pushed to cover that.
I mean, the court openly censoring the statements of a torture victim. Like there was a time where they were discussing whether they would even bring the statements into court, and they had cut the feed for the journalists. So only the people present in the courtroom or in the gallery got to actually hear the conversation that was going on about whether or not they would even hear Khalid al-Masri's statements.
Which I'm still pissed off about the fact that this whole trial has been held in such secret, and there's only, a handful of people allowed in the court, and then journalists have to, try to follow it on video link, and we can't all. This is the most important press freedom trial in modern history for sure, maybe ever. I know, some people have said both. I think we could probably go with ever. But the fact that we don't have access to what's happening in the courtroom and we aren't able to follow along when this affects all of us in such a massive way is beyond absurd to me. The public should have access to what's happening in this trial every single second of every single day.
I mean, yeah, they even had 5 extra seats that were reserved for Australian diplomats that didn't know they were invited or had these seats being held for them. And then once they found out, like 2.5 weeks into the hearing, they went, "Oh yeah, we're not going to make it. You can go ahead and free those seats up." And that is like one of the only reasons that Rebecca Vincent was able to be in the courtroom, along with Reporters Without Borders. 39 other NGOs were shut out of this hearing, which was a decision made rather on the spot and somewhat arbitrarily but before they started proceedings on opening day of the hearing. And as some of you probably already know this, it's worth it to kind of go back over all of it, because short of Claire Dobbin attacking Julian Assange in the middle of the courtroom, some incredibly phenomenal things went down. To say nothing of the fact that U.S. war crimes were discussed in a courtroom. Like, that would never fucking happen here.
Yeah, and they're the same war crimes that the U.S. is currently trying to beat the shit out of the International Criminal Court for even entertaining.
Yeah.
I'd be straight up threatening their families. I have to go yell at my children. I'll be back.
You're cool. I'm actually gonna pull up the video for that guy real quick. I have to hop on computer B.
That's fine. Cool. Yeah. I'll mute.
Well, no, hold down the fort for a second because it's gonna take me a minute.
What do you want me to do? Like a song and dance, man?
If you could.
You gonna just leave me here all by myself, you guys? I don't even know any knock jokes. Like, I don't know what the fuck you want me to talk about. Oh, I could talk about how I owned the Pennsylvania Treasury Twitter account last night because that was funny. It was very interesting. They asked very foolishly, "Hey, what's something that you would like to see us talk about more?" And so, if you're going to ask, I'm going to answer. And I said, "You should talk about Julian Assange." And at first, they were very flippant about even addressing the issue. And so, I started hitting them with some sources and telling them that they were ridiculous and that they kept trying to tell me that they're, oh, so busy trying to run this department in the middle of a pandemic or whatever. But if you look at that account, they have plenty of time to shitpost, fam. All they do is shitpost or tweet about sports. So,
They had like vaguely addressed press freedom at least 4 times in the history of ever.
Yes. Well, they did the Paula Jean thing. I said that I support press freedom, like that. Isn't that enough? No, that's not enough. That's not good enough. So, we went back and forth and I think Kimber jumped in, Glory jumped in, a couple other people from Twitter jumped in, and we were all hitting them with a bunch of sources and facts. And I don't know if that person will actually take a look at any of those sources or facts. But it was fun. It was a fun Twitter experience. And then somebody was like, I can't believe that you're asking a state Treasury Department to tweet about Julian Assange. And, I will look for allies everywhere. I don't care. If you have a decent following and I can use you to use that following to boost the case, I'm going to try to do that. And they asked, so I answered.
Yeah, if you're upright, I'm going to talk to you about Julian. Yeah, if you're reclined, I'm going to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I mean, and they have a decent following, and it's a government-run account, and I'm sure that they'll probably get yelled at for even talking to us. But maybe some of their followers will see that interaction, and then maybe they'll take a look at those sources. So either way,
it is a fascinating thing that being a press freedom advocate gets people to tell other people, "Oh my God, you can't talk to them. You have to block them, get them out of your purview. Just off your timeline. No, press freedom. No. The only advocates that are as shunned or lonely are election integrity advocates.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about the world we live in? We're talking about the biggest press freedom trial in history, or election integrity gets you
Makes you a pariah.
Shunned.
Yeah. Mocked, ridiculed. I mean, my favorite is when people say that I'm trying, or like we're trying to use the Julian Assange case to grift. Y'all, there's no grift in this work, in this activism. There is none. There's none. It's like we get shit on. Like, this is not a way to like build a brand. This is a controversial case that people don't want to talk about. If you think that there's some like extra credit in there, I haven't found it. I don't know if you guys have, but I haven't found it. I'm just getting shit upon, you know?
So I don't know if we'll be able to hear it when we play or when I play it, but the audience
will they be able to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, hey, if you're in the chat, let us know if you can hear this shit, okay?
But if you guys want to take a second to intro it a little bit before I get it pulled up all the way. I just have it downloaded and ready to go.
Is this the president of Azerbaijan?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the guy who was just interviewed by the BBC. It was a pretty long interview, the whole thing. I think it's like 45, 48 minutes, something like that. But there's a piece in there where she challenges him on their treatment of journalists, which they treat their journalists like shit. They have one of the worst press freedom index numbers in the world. And he's a douchebag. Like, he's a war criminal. He sucks. No question about it. But she's talking to him about their treatment of journalists, and he comes right back at her to her face and brings up their treatment of Julian Assange in the UK. So, you know, I'm a big fan of watching the hypocrisy of empire being called out, especially right to their faces. So it was good fun for me.
Free media in your country?
We're not here to discuss
no,
my
let's
country.
Discuss.
No,
let's discuss.
No, President.
In order to accuse me, saying that Armenians will not have free media here, let's talk about Assange. How many years he spent in Ecuadorian embassy, and for what? And where is he now? For journalistic activity. You kept that person hostage, actually killing him morally and physically. You did it, not us, and now he's in prison. So you have no moral right to talk about free media when you do these things.
Returning to the conflict.
Better return to the conflict, because this is not what you like. You like only to accuse, only to attack. But look at the mirror. Look, I tell many times, before coming and lecturing us, and in your question, accusing me, it's not a question, it's accusation. You talk like a prosecutor. Why? If you're so democratic and so objective, why you keep Assange in prison?
I mean, look, when someone comes at a genuine war criminal, a bona fide monster, and that monster looks right back at you and says, you have no moral authority to talk to me about that, and he's right, we're fucked.
Yeah. And the fact that she was so obviously uncomfortable and tried desperately to change the subject was perfection. You know, this really is like one of the worst human beings on earth. And, you know, like I've said before, pretty much all of our world leaders, with a very few exceptions, are psychopaths. Maybe all of them. I don't know that you can reach that level of power without being a psychopath. There are varying degrees of monstrosity going on, but they're all awful. But the fact that this guy can come right back at her and hand her ass on press freedom is pretty great. I love seeing the hypocrisy of empire just blown up. It makes me smile.
And what, is she going to go after him on war crimes? Is she going to go after him on needless civilian death? I mean, there's still no moral authority there.
No. That's what I'm saying. People are like, oh, but he's a war criminal. So are our president.
Kind of the point.
Yeah. I mean, like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Yes, he's a war criminal. The fact that he can now look at you and say you have no moral authority and he's a war criminal, that's a problem. Like, you should take a look in the mirror, like self-reflect a little and think, wow, I just had a war criminal call me out. Maybe I should, make some changes in my life.
Well,
A
it's that
journalist in the
last.
Philippines was murdered today. A journalist in Mexico was murdered today.
Dude, the war on journalism is not a joke. It's happening all over the world right now, and it's bad, and it's getting worse.
Yeah, and not only talking about the way that other places in the world behave based off of what the U.S. does. The simple fact that not only are we waging wars in this way and have continued to wage wars in this way, and now we're even making it illegal to disclose the fact that war is being waged in this way, just opens it up for literally any other nation of the world to behave worse. Like even Brazil going after Glenn Greenwald for publishing information out there.
Same thing.
Yeah, literally
exact
the exact
thing.
same fucking thing for publishing accurate, factual information that embarrassed the Brazilian government.
Well, Rebecca Vincent posted about that video that we just showed, and even she said, the problem with this video is that, or this interview, or what he said, is that when the West does such horrific things to Julian Assange, that they always use that to throw back in our faces. Well, look what you're doing to Julian Assange. So what we're doing isn't that bad. Like, you have no right to come and tell us what we can and can't do. And they're right. If you want to criticize them for their treatment of journalists, you better clean your own house first.
This is why whataboutism only works when both parties are backing pieces of shit or are pieces of shit themselves. Like, whataboutism doesn't work when you're on the right side of the issue. It doesn't. It can't.
Well, the problem ultimately comes down to the U.S. just wants U.S.-backed authoritarians, where they're okay with people committing these crimes as long as you do it in the name of the United States, like Yemen. So even the people that they call war criminal, which they are, stops at if you oppose U.S. hegemony, to where when you're an ally of the U.S., you get put under this invincible shield of protection and put on the U.S. or on the UN's fucking Human Rights Council while you literally just kill women in the street for no fucking reason. So,
yeah, but I just want people to understand that being able to appreciate the fact that this guy called her out straight to her face on the BBC doesn't mean that you support that guy or his war crimes. I don't like anybody. I don't like any of these people. They're all psychopaths. We talk about it all the time. It's okay to watch what he said and, be like, fuck yeah, he's right. The truth is the truth, no matter who tells it. It's okay. It's really
scary as fuck. It's scary as fuck that a dude that's already a war criminal is sitting there like, what the fuck do you mean? Look at what the U.S. is doing.
No,
and he's right.
He's talking to the UK on for there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But it's the same thing, basically.
But the reason the UK is holding Julian Assange is because of the US, so it applies.
Yeah.
And now that fucking war criminal has said more accurate information than the Guardian has about Julian's situation, literally saying you're torturing this man. Like, you're torturing this guy.
Well, and okay, he's a war criminal, but should we have like a war criminal off? Because I'm pretty sure
all every presidential election is, Misty.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you want to call him this awful, horrible war criminal. We can't ever agree with anything that he ever says. But all of our presidents are war criminals. So
we can't claim to be the shining beacon of democracy and good for the world and be a war criminal at the same time and expect people to just not ever notice.
Yeah. I would just like people to understand nuance and intellectual consistency and being able to observe each individual situation in and of itself and not get your panties in a twist because you don't like the guy that's saying it. What he said was true.
Was the casualty, Misty, when that marmot got stuck in the Large Hadron Collider in 2016 and hurled us.
Can we find another one and try to fix that?
Possible time.
What's the opposite of a weasel?
The opposite of a weasel?
Yeah,
probably a very large mammal.
We should put that in the
like burrow.
Yeah.
Try and fix it with like a blue whale or something.
I'm not sacrificing a baby otter to the Large Hadron Collider. I'm not going to do that.
Oh, save the baby otters.
Do we want to do the other statement that we have?
Sloboda? We can.
Sloboda.
Wait, real quick, I want to stay on this for just a minute because
Okay.
look, because yes, that guy is a monster, and what the Five Eyes countries have done is not only give a really wide lane for those monsters to be able to accurately play whataboutism or criticize, but they're setting the standard
Yep.
for what an empire in absolute paranoid fucking gluttony and greed can do, because these guys have been able to do a lot. The UK criminalized protest.
Mhm.
4 people at an Assange event on Saturday were arrested.
A peaceful protest that they've been holding every Saturday for weeks.
Months.
Months.
Allison McGee will be, or Mason. God damn it! I grew up with an Allison McGee. Allison Mason will be on Slow News Day this Sunday to tell us all about it.
Because that's something that we've seen across the Five Eyes countries. New Zealand will do it. You have Australia that's arresting people literally just for saying that they're going to attend events on Facebook, not even actually going, but just preemptively like snatch and grab. And then you have the US, who's not far behind, because you have New Zealand, Australia, and the UK is basically the staging ground and the test facilities for what the United States brings out next.
Pretty much, yeah. But I think the U.S. has definitely arrested more protesters. Shit, the U.S. is arresting journalists who are covering protests. And nobody seems to think that that's a problem.
Well, and the journalists who are too afraid to go or would never go in the first place, because that's just not the type of journalism they do. They're sneering at those journalists that have been arrested or that have been shot at or beaten.
Not just sneering, smearing them. They're calling them right-wing grifters. And it's gross.
It's sad. It really is. Because these are people that are tried and true, proven, principled individuals. And it's like, it's funny in a way, because like part of me knows what it is. Like, it's the same shit that we dealt with, most likely, just people trying to cause problems.
It's depressing, though. It's endlessly depressing to have to deal with this nonsense. Like, you know, it's okay if you don't think that, you know, the election was as rigged as Donald Trump says, but to just deny entirely that there's no way possible that there was any shenanigans whatsoever is just dishonest. That's just intellectually dishonest. You cannot be a person who follows politics and think, oh, well, no, the Democrats would never cheat. I mean, have you been sleeping for 4 years? The past two primaries, they cheated out in the open. They went into court and were like, yeah, so what? Fuck you. You know, like what? But no, they would never do that in the general. They would never cheat Donald Trump. I mean, come on, dude. It doesn't take that much imagination to suppose that maybe there might be some shenanigans going on. I'm not saying you have to jump full on board the MAGA train and like, you know, there was dead people voting or whatever. But first of all, it's an American election. So it was definitely fucked up.
Well, definitely. I mean, look, the Whitney Webb just published an article this morning out of Unlimited Hangout. You should go read it. But untested AI was used to verify the signatures on mail-in ballots. In a lot of cases where they've been able to look into this, Reuters tried to get as many answers out of the company as possible and out of polling places as possible. Human beings do 1% or less of the work, and the untested AI does the rest.
Like, does anyone remember Iowa?
But if you ask the company, they're like, oh no, 74 to 96% of this is all checked and verified by humans. And then you ask the humans and they're like, yeah, it's like 1% or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you should just trust that company. That's what all of these voting stations did, was trust the company when they said, oh, well, the similar program, banks use it, so it's good.
I mean, just remember the Shadow app from Iowa, the people who jizz app. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the idea that there are journalists who I respect, generally speaking, just living in denial that this is even a possibility is really depressing. And not just living in denial, but then smearing people who are trying to do the work of looking into it and investigating it and seeing if there is anything to it and seeing if there is any evidence behind it. It hasn't even been a week since the election, or it's been a week since the election, and people are like, oh, nope, wasn't rigged. That's no time for an investigation. It's crazy to me that people are just brushing it aside as if it's impossible. This never happened. I mean, our elections are always fucked every time.
The only person that's called it is the Associated Press.
Yeah.
If you go to Real Clear Politics right now, it's Biden doesn't have 278 electoral votes. He doesn't, because they haven't been verified. Pennsylvania hasn't been called. Arizona hasn't been called. Nevada is being sued. Michigan and Wisconsin.
I just wonder, how many times do we have to have complete and utter chaos surrounding our elections before people will finally be like, hey, maybe we should have paper ballots?
Well, the way you know it's manufactured, like the drama, right? Because there's you have your problem, reaction, solution, right? Is their methodology for getting something done. And you can tell that this is mostly an artificial concept, like the duality of it, because Trump's not talking about shit like Iowa. Like, no one's looking back at the Democratic primary and saying, look at all this open election rigging. Look at WikiLeaks from 2016. Like, we know this is what the Democrats did then. How much money did they launder this time through state parties? Like, it's all there. Like, we know what the fuck they do. All you have to do is read it.
That is kind of an interesting point, and then we can move on to the Sloboda witness statement. Because look, man, Donald Trump knows how to play to his base. It's why he got elected in the first place. He knows what buttons to push and when to push them. And he's put forth a couple of like really pitiful legal challenges when there's on the ground reporting out of Michigan that says this company Dominion switched 6,000 votes. Their software did. The polling station was like, oh, it was a clerical error. Right? That was a human error. But we've got so many different really just blatant God damn it. I'm sorry, it's been a really long day. Really, really blatant fraud. And he's not mentioning that. Dominion has voting machines in 60 counties in Michigan. 67, something like that. And they're in 28 states, and they're in every single swing state. And even if you drop the mean number of counties that they're in by half of what they are in Michigan, like, the little over 30 at 6,000 votes in 30 counties in 28 states.
Yeah, but we have to bring democracy to the rest of the globe. We're so good at it here. Right. We got to give it to everybody else. Right. It's the United States of America in the year 2020, and we can't run a fucking election. I mean, we can. Let's be honest, we can. They choose not to. The chaos is exactly what they're looking for. But the fact that the people aren't like, man, this is weird. We're a really wealthy, smart, successful country. We've been running elections for a really long time. Seems weird that in the year 2020 we can't manage a legitimate election. I mean, that's
actually a joke against me here at work, because I'll be like, well, no, like, it's openly rigged. Like, here's this thing and this thing and this report, and people are like, are you a Trump supporter? And I'm like, no. Like, I've literally spent 2 fucking years trying to fight this guy on a fucking issue to stop torture committed in open public view.
You know, it's so frustrating because if you want election integrity, you should want it all the time, not just when it benefits your team. You know, I want free and fair elections all the time. That shouldn't be a controversial statement. That shouldn't be a thing that's like, you know, a party division or whatever. And when I question the integrity of an election that everybody knows, again, it's an American election, that means it's fucked up. So if you even question the integrity of election, all of a sudden you're a Trump supporter or a right-wing grifter, go fuck yourself. That's so stupid. It's infantile.
Mhm.
Idiots. Sorry, rant over.
You're good.
Just stop apologizing for that.
I've been doing better about apologizing. Have you noticed? I've really been trying not to do that, but because I don't want to be Taylor Swift.
I think you have to go through a boyfriend every album in order to be Taylor Swift.
I've probably done that. I mean, I've never like had an
Alongside
album.
her albums.
Yeah, I've there's been boyfriends, just no albums.
Are we ready to get into
You
some
also got to
Sloboda?
be able to like stand upright and have someone with a level walk up to you and have it be a perfectly straight line.
No, there's way too much backside for me to ever be level. Oh,
Moving on.
all right, Sloboda it is.
Sloboda,
You got
I
enough
will get it.
to read, or are you
The
good?
first slide is up.
Okay.
I'll go. New hitherto unrevealed information about civilian deaths in conflict is always important because protection of civilians is the universally accepted precondition of lawful armed conflict, and the deliberate targeting of civilians is a war crime. It follows that any information available about civilians who were not protected but instead met a violent death is information of the utmost gravity and significance. Data about civilian deaths is not only important for those who have lost relatives and friends, but also to the actors in conflict who have the duty to devise better means to protect civilians from the ravages of war. Whenever you're ready to go to the next one.
I'm there.
All right.
Go, Andrew.
I'm on it.
Woo.
The Iraq war logs contain an estimated 15,000 previously unknown civilian deaths. The majority of these new deaths came from small incidents of 1 to 3 deaths. That is, the very kinds of incidents that attract least reporting, particularly so in times of intense conflict. We estimated that the Iraq war logs described hitherto unreported details of 23,000 violent incidents in which Iraqi civilians were killed or their bodies were found. A further 2,000 events exclusive to these logs concern the deaths of Iraqi police and other security forces killed after capture. Next.
Got it.
Cool. From the 860 of 390,000 logs systematically analyzed, we were able to add to the IBC, that's the Iraq body count database, 61 previously unspecified incidents, 109 since wow, is that really cut off? Since 2010, further analysis by Iraq body count has raised from 61 to more than 3,000 the number of incidents in the IBC database sourced solely from the Iraq war logs. We cannot comment on the intentions of the U.S. government. However, we can attest that in relation to the new information contained within the Iraq war logs, almost no subsequent information has emerged from either official or unofficial sources to add to or even corroborate the hitherto unknown information provided within the Iraq war logs. Thus, 10 years on, the war logs remain the only source of information regarding many thousands of violent civilian deaths in Iraq between 2004 and 2009.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah.
Thank you, Julian.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Chelsea.
I'm gonna pull it down for a minute there, but if we want to talk about that, I can pop it back up. But that's just fucking insane to me.
Yeah.
Like these are such like the wars in Africa are fucking shadow wars, right? Those are the ones that like fucking nobody talks about. But even
People don't even know that we're there.
right, but fucking Iraq and Afghanistan, like the ones that are not even in your face, but like the surface level military conflicts, like there's been no civilian deaths since 2010. Like what? No.
Yeah, it's really disturbing to me that the only source of information we have about any kind of civilian death numbers comes from a whistleblower and a publisher, and that this is not something that our government is giving us the information on. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not surprising, but people should be very disturbed by the fact that we are slaughtering civilians and hiding it.
They're trying to expand the Freedom of Information Act to further limit the information that we're allowed to have.
Yeah, and you're not supposed to classify war crimes. So that in and of itself is illegal. And, you know, so not only are we committing war crimes, but then we're covering them up. And then we're penalizing and torturing and prosecuting the people who expose that. It's a fucked up world we live in.
And something's got to fucking change. Because we can't just invade the whole world and expect no fucking retaliation against our country. Like,
we will be greeted as liberators. They will be throwing roses in the streets. Dick Cheney said that on television, y'all. Said that. Those are words that came out of Dick Cheney's mouth. We will be greeted as liberators in Iraq.
The next time he invites you hunting, you better say no, Steve.
Really?
For real. Do not go hunting with Dick Cheney ever.
What if I'm quicker than he is?
Ooh, actually, maybe you should go hunting with Dick Cheney.
I'm not going to be able to get away with it.
It reminds me of the goddamn campaign.
I'm not Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, that guy apologized to him in the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry that you had to shoot me, Dick.
I'm really sorry.
I'm really sorry I got in the way of your
this
bullet
right now.
I just walked in front of your bullet, man. My bad. Sorry about that.
They were shooting at flightless birds.
Man, Dick Cheney's another motherfucker. When he dies,
I don't think you understand, dude. Okay, if you go to a game preserve in Texas, they're like petting zoos. Like the quail and the grouse and everything will just come right up to this fence, and you are given food that you toss at them so that you can sit there and plug away at them while their heads are down and eating. And he shot a guy.
I'm sure it was
Thinking it was a bird?
Was he had to have been wasted, right? Like, right?
Oh man.
Maybe the dude was eating some bread.
You would hope so, dude. You would hope so.
Dude, I've been pretty drunk. I've never mistaken a human for a bird, you know? I don't know.
You need to get on.
This may come as a shock to some of you, but I have taken a substantial amount of psychedelics before. Mm-hmm. And never once have I confused a human being for a flightless bird.
Nope.
I did one time watch my theater teacher turn into a cartoon giraffe, though.
Well, I mean, that sounds kind of fun, actually. I mean, I guess it could be terrifying, but yeah, when he dies, he's another person. I'm going to have a one-woman dance party in my living room. Like, that'll be a good day for humanity. Kissinger, Cheney.
At this point, they probably will be heads kept alive inside of a laboratory, still trying to maintain power.
What the fuck is Henry Kissinger still doing alive, for God's sake? Jesus.
Waiting for the ability to be a head in a jar, Futurama style. You can stick him on a robot.
Can't they just like cryogenically freeze them and be done with it?
But also Gundam.
Oh,
that would suck.
Gundam Dick Cheney. Okay, back to Sloboda though.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
sorry. We got a little
Um,
sidetracked there.
An often repeated charge of the U.S. government regarding the release of the Iraq war logs is that this could have endangered lives, including of Iraqi as well as U.S. citizens. This is written kind of freaking weird. I'm sorry. I'm sight reading this right now, and it's clunky. I apologize. Um, including of Iraqi as well as U.S. citizens by exposing their identities or role. However, according to reliable reporting on the matter, the U.S. government has never been able to demonstrate that a single individual has been significantly harmed by the release of the data. This is not least because the war logs were highly redacted prior to their release by WikiLeaks, ensuring that information that could identify and possibly endanger the living was not available in the version publicly released alongside IBC's analysis in October of 2010. It could be well argued, therefore, that by making this information public, Manning and Assange were carrying out a duty on behalf of the victims and the public at large that the U.S. government was failing to carry out. Let's read that one more time because it's a keeper. It could be well argued, therefore, that by making this information public, Manning and Assange were carrying out a duty on behalf of the victims and the public at large that the U.S. government was failing to carry out.
One more time. Thank you, Julian.
No, I
Thank
already
you,
changed
Chelsea.
it. Yeah, go ahead.
No, just wanted to say thank you, Julian, and thank you, Chelsea.
Well, and there were interviews done with Julian around the time where the Iraq war logs and Afghan diaries were coming out. And he literally said, like, this is as much belonging, this history belongs as much to the Americans about what they had done as to the Afghan and Iraqi people for what had been done to them. Because there was no other historical record of anything like this happening in those countries of this magnitude and in this way.
Okay. Much of what we have stated further above, and our gratitude to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, as well as Chelsea Manning, we have already put on the public record. What we have not stated publicly before today concerns another crucial matter: the ways in which complex and innovative steps were taken to publish the most important content of the Iraq war logs in the most responsible way. Although it was clear that there was considerable pressure upon Julian Assange and WikiLeaks to publish as quickly as possible, none of WikiLeaks media partners were able to suggest a means by which the logs could be redacted in circumstances where there was a full tranche of 400,000 logs, of which only tiny samples could be redacted and edited by hand. It was apparent that they were under multiple pressures to hit the publish button sooner, but stood firm by the principles of adhering to the best solution that could be conceived to ensure that the released information could not cause danger to any persons. In sum, throughout our pre-release dealings with Julian Assange and his WikiLeaks colleagues, he showed consistent understanding of and commitment to the same principles of rigor and adherence to responsible publication that we as an organization consider it imperative to adhere to.
So once again, one of their favorite talking points that Julian Assange just willy-nilly released a bunch of information that put people's lives in danger, and it was so awful of him, and oh, what a terrible person, was bullshit. Absolute garbage, dumpster fire, propaganda, bullshit.
Well, and also, like, the first or second chapter in that David Lee and Luke Harding book, and the third chapter, and the fifth chapter, and the 12th, and like,
The whole damn thing.
When you set a narrative, and you know that that narrative is built on absolute bullshit, the last place you want to wind up is court.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why the UK went to such trouble to limit the amount of people that were able to see what was going on. And that's why we were shocked to discover that we were the only people who were live streaming it, or at least a discussion of it, and having people who were, there for the cloud video feed on, like, while it was happening, because it kind of important.
You would think, you would think that this would be something that people would want to talk about and be engaged in, and that's just not the case. And it's, again, the normies, I don't blame the normies. A lot of them haven't even heard of Julian Assange or WikiLeaks. But when we have people in independent media, again, the mainstream media, of course, they're not going to cover it.
Well, they're
expose the shit out of them. In the 2016 releases, there was a list of journalists who were like giving articles to the Hillary Clinton campaign for approval before printing them. And so WikiLeaks embarrassed the shit out of a lot of journalists. They were attending all these dinner parties and all this stuff with like Neera Tanden and, so I get why mainstream media didn't want to cover it. But the fact that
imagine
what?
Having to be like, okay, well, I can't hit publish on this until John Podesta approves.
Oh. Or can you imagine publishing an article and then getting like a, nagging phone call from Neera Tanden about how you said the wrong thing or your tone is off or whatever, because that happened too. And I can't imagine calling myself a journalist and, caving to the Clinton machine in such a gross fashion and just completely selling out all of your journalistic integrity for access and for, invitations to dinner parties. You got to be a pretty special level scumbag to do that.
So, and you only get like one shot to go on mainstream media and talk about Julian Assange, and they spread that shit out because we haven't heard about Pamela Anderson on The View since the last time she was on The View.
Because she killed it.
Because she made those poor...
Because she made sense.
Horrendous women look like
horrendous women. Yeah.
Yeah.
She totally slaughtered that appearance. It was amazing. She made them look like fools, and she did a great job of sticking to, the important key points. He's a journalist, and that's really all that matters. He's a journalist. He published documents, source documents, not hyperbole or opinion. These are source documentation in the public interest. Of course he published it. The fact that that's even a question tells you about the state of journalism in this country. The fact that people would even doubt that that's something he should have done as a journalist is crazy talk. That's exactly what journalism is. That's exactly what it is.
And there was a point in Rachel Maddow's career where, like, every night for weeks and weeks and weeks, the only thing that she would talk about was Chris Christie and a bridge.
Yes. Well, for the past 4 years, all she's covered is Russia.
Yeah,
especially for the first 2 years of Russiagate. Holy shit, that is all she covered.
So it's not like they're not capable of focusing on a subject and delivering, piece after piece after piece about it. It's that, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, they're as culpable for what's being done to Julian as the government is.
Absolutely. And then all of the people who remain silent and don't say shit about it, you're complicit too. Hate to tell you, Bernie Sanders, you're complicit. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you're complicit. All of the squad, everybody who claims to be progressive.
Yeah.
Huh?
99% of Congress.
Well, okay, listen, I don't expect, most Republicans to speak out in defense of Julian Assange. It's just not
to be the free speech people, and the guy that they elected president was all, we love the WikiLeaks, give us more WikiLeaks. And,
I just don't expect much from them. But then if you're going to pretend to be progressive and a lefty and you're not going to stand up for press freedom and civil liberties and the future of journalism, yeah, you can go fuck yourself. That's how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
I really just don't have any
Amen.
time for those people. I just don't. They're, to me, those people are far more dangerous than any Republican on the planet, because a wolf in sheep's clothing will always be more dangerous than the wolf. And that is exactly what they are. They're pretending to have your back. They pretend to be your friend. They put out the snarky tweets and they give the dramatic speeches. But when it comes down to it, they are co-opted. They are completely controlled, and they are not on your side at all. At all. No, people on your side don't vote for the CARES Act. They don't turn their back on press freedom. They don't call Nancy Pelosi Mama Bear and do Rolling Stone covers with her. Those people aren't your friends. They're just not.
It's out of desperation for political representation. Really, it's out of like someone realizing how fucked things are and saying, I want that person to handle it for me.
Well, I mean, people really
That's-
need to break out of that cult of personality and the hero worship. I mean, like I was telling you guys before we started the show, today Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez put out a tweet, you know, going hard criticizing Republicans for their foreign policy. Sis, your last president from your party was Barack Obama. I think you should take a seat. I think you should take a seat. He started 5 new wars. He ran out of bombs. He ran out of bombs. He droned weddings and funerals and schools. Like, shut up. You cannot come at Republicans when the last Democratic president was, you know, Barack Obama's a lot, you know?
And his vice president was further to the right than he was, and you just spent the last 4 months campaigning for him.
Yeah. And convincing everybody that you can push him left. Go fuck yourself. Like,
Dude, Joe Biden's whole campaign, aside from I'm not Donald Trump, was I'm a much nicer Republican than Donald Trump.
and fuck the socialists, fuck the left. He said it over and over and over again. Like, he right out loud told you that he did not give a shit about the left and he was not going to be moving left. And they were still trying to gaslight people and their supporters. We can push them left. We just got to get him elected first, and then we can push them left. How's that going? He's currently right now filling his cabinet with neocons.
You
Where's
could
the left?
probably, like, by the time it's all done, you could play Project for a New American Century bingo. I guarantee you. I guarantee you.
I tweeted, I asked if anybody wanted to play neocon bingo for the cabinet positions. Anybody in? I'll set it up. Like, we can play some bingo and see how many we get. I mean, they're going to give John Kasich a cabinet position, y'all. And he just went on national TV and told the left to fuck off. And he's going to get a cabinet position. But yeah, you're going to push him left. Sure. Sounds good. Right.
Unity.
And decorum, civility, be nice.
I just hope they don't. I hope the intelligence community, once Joe Biden's in, doesn't try to then turn him into some like FDR-esque or even Obama-esque figure. Like, I hope that, like, even if he gets into office, which fucking craziness, who the fuck knows or cares at this point, but he's just going to disappear. Like, he's literally either going to be sitting in front of a camera and slowly replaced with CGI, or just not seen or heard from at all.
They'll bring him out for photo ops.
He'll kiss some babies.
He'll kiss some babies. Well, maybe not now because of the
Well,
virus.
he'll sniff them. I don't know if he'll kiss them.
Yeah. They'll use the virus to keep him out of the public eye, but they'll use him for photo ops. He won't give very many speeches. The ones that he do will be very short and very, very carefully written, and they'll medicate the shit out of him before he goes to do it. But yeah, your country is a joke. Your election.
George Galloway was like, if I was Joe Biden, I would not stand near an open balcony with Kamala Harris behind me. He was like, don't let her push your wheelchair down a slope to look at the spring flowers.
Right? I mean,
because she's a dead-eyed, soulless servant to power, and that's why she's there.
Yeah. Well, so is he, but I mean, he's now losing his mind. So
Well, and look, man, nobody wanted Joe Biden to be president. The only reason that Barack Obama did all that shit in order to rig the primary for him was so he would nominate Kamala Harris as his VP.
Mm-hmm.
That's who they wanted to be president. It's just people heard her talk and went, yeah, no.
She auditioned like 2 years ago. Like there's an audition tape of her where she's literally talking about running for president and all this stuff way before she ever announced she was running for president, any of that stuff. Like she auditioned for the Hamptons donors. That's a real thing. So, I mean, this is not, you don't have elections. You do not get to pick your president ever, 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 ever. Like you need to get over that fantasy and start working outside that system real fast if you actually want change, because you're not going to get it at a ballot box.
Right, like we're supposed to somehow believe that the number 7 Democrat who picked the number 13 Democrat beat the number 1 Republican.
I mean, you guys, the first woman president is going to she never won a delegate. She couldn't even win 1 delegate in the primary, and she's going to be the first female president. Like, that's so depressing to me.
Glass ceiling, Misty. Glass ceiling.
I know. Watch out, girls. Wear some shoes because there's glass everywhere. Oh my God, it's so gross. It's so
That's
gross.
what the Timberlands are for.
I'm offended. Like, I'm a woman, and I don't really put a lot of stock in like the first woman president because yay, more female war criminals. Progress, equality, girl power, you know what I mean? No, I don't really give a shit. But the idea that the first female president is going to be somebody who couldn't even make it to like a vote. Like she didn't even make it to like a vote. Like she had to drop out before then. Like she was getting her ass kicked in her home state. It was an embarrassment. Like she got trounced on a debate stage, didn't win a single delegate, and now she's going to end up being the first female president. That's fucking depressing.
With an asterisk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're going to have to like go out of their way to rig it for her in 2024.
Oh, it's okay though, because the progressives are going to primary her. See, it's
more intersectional fascism.
Yay, girl power. So fucking stupid. It's so stupid. Man. Sorry, I'm in a mood.
Hey, look, you could have had Shirley Chisholm, and that would have been a hell of a first female president.
You could have had Cynthia McKinney. For fuck's sake.
Cynthia McKinney.
Jill Stein. I mean, I'd have taken Jill Stein. I don't agree with her on everything, and whatever. But I could have had Jill Stein. I would have taken Jill Stein. Yeah. Sure, absolutely. At least she's an anti-imperialist. Like for real.
Oh, by the way, Taylor just interviewed Jill Stein for Activism Munich.
Really?
She, I don't know if it's out yet or not. I haven't seen it.
Spoiler alert.
Taylor, if you're watching, make sure you send that to me.
I'm sure we'll all get this.
Yeah, I'll see it. She'll post it on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No,
Taylor's kicking ass, and if you guys aren't following her stuff on Activism Munich, you absolutely should be. She's kicking ass. She's doing a great job.
Doing a great job. She is.
Yeah.
She got a hold of me about something else, and then was like, "Oh, by the way, I interviewed Jill Stein." That's a neat. By the way, that's where you're at now. Like, kick ass, dude.
Where that's a by the way. Wow. Like, oh yeah, forgot.
All right. Hell yeah.
Go Taylor. Yeah, and then Fee and Nico were on RT last week. Like, our friends are kicking some ass, you guys.
Dude, the Office Space thing was hilarious, but they forgot the part where they had to like pull a dude away. Like that was the only thing. But yeah, so if you haven't seen it, Nico and Pasta and Tim Canova recreated the copy machine scene from Office Space with the
which is the best scene.
Yeah.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangsta. Like that song in the background. Yeah. It's so good. Yeah. So good.
I can't imagine being a kid right now and trying to watch Office Space and like find anything about it remotely funny.
Right.
Especially during coronavirus when nobody has a fucking cubicle job anymore.
Right.
Like all of that shit's telecommute now. Like
when it came out, it was funny as fuck. It's a good movie.
Back in my day. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
We had to walk 20 miles in the snow to watch Office Space on a.
And we liked it.
You're so lame.
Right. But I think that was everything
Oh,
for tonight.
Glory just called us boomers. Glory, I'm gonna have to fight you, girl. I'm an
Right.
old millennial. Get it right. I'm an old millennial. I'm an ex-ennial. That's what they fucking call me.
I'm a young millennial.
Well, I'm in that weird. There's like a weird crossover group that is.
I'm Generation X, so nobody gives a fuck about me.
Right. Yeah. Everybody forgets you. But I'm in that weird crossover group where you're like kind of millennial, but you're also kind of Gen X. So they started calling us Xennials. And honestly, that makes sense to me because I don't feel like I belong to either group. So I'm in that weird old
I was
millennial.
born at the towards the tail end of Gen X.
I don't believe in dividing people based on.
I'm from the 70s. The late 70s, but I mean, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Dude.
Cool. Are we ready to close out?
For sure.
Yep, I think
I
so.
would like to thank everybody for watching. My name is Andrew Smith. You can find me on Twitter at Andrew Zigman. You can find us on Twitter at action_4Assange. If you go to action4assange.com, you can find a whole bunch of our calls to action that we have up right now. Anything from getting your local congressional representative to support the Gabbard-Thomas bill, or Gabbard-Massey bill, sorry, about Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, and the Espionage Act. We have direct contact information to the U.S. Pardon Office on there. We have the email addresses of almost every single parliamentarian in Australia that you can reach out to about Julian's situation and also about our friend David McBride's situation, a whistleblower out there, and tons of other ones. There's probably 40 different weeks maybe of different actions that we've done on there that you guys can go back and look through to participate in. We will have new ones up eventually. The next new one will be Saturday. We have some secret surprising news to go over. So we will see you this coming Saturday at 1 p.m. and as always, Tuesdays at around 9 p.m.
Yeah, unless we have technical difficulties. But I'm Misty Winston. You can find me on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust. I also have another show on YouTube with my friend Jesse Zerwell called Facts on the Ground. We just did a really interesting interview with Morgan. Some of you may know them from Twitter. But we talked about Space Force and what I called intergalactic imperialism, which was super interesting, but also terrifying. But you should check that out. But yeah, thanks to everybody in the chat. Sleepy Josh, I miss you. Andrew, good job trying to get things going, even though we were a little stressed out and we were running late. Sorry, we were late, everybody. Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, just thanks, guys.
My name's Steve Poikinen. I host a show called Slow News Day with my wonderful co-host, Glory Jones. Even though she's talking shit in the chat.
Calling us boomers.
Yeah, you could fuck straight off with that, Jones. you can. You should watch on the Rockfin. But if you're looking for it on YouTube, then you type in Slow News Day Podcast. It's Thursday on Rockfin only, I believe. Glory and I will be going through the second half of Cory Morningstar's series on the social dilemma. And then Sunday, Cory Morningstar will be on Slow News Day, and then Allison Mason will be on Slow News Day. That's going to be a hell of a day. Yeah, be there for that. Yeah. And thank you to Andrew for bailing us out, to Misty. And we love you guys. We will see you soon. Good luck to us all.